Hang on a second. And we are recording. Hi, I'm Karen with My Kids Gay and I'm okay. And my friend and my cousin Sam has joined me. We had a really great talk on the phone the other day, and we were just talking. I've got a new grandbaby I'm super proud of. And when I was holding him for the first time, I just remember thinking, I want a healthy kid. I didn't want a gay kid. I didn't want non-binary or boy or girl. I just wanted a healthy child. And I think that's what most parents ask for. And Sam and I had a conversation. And while we were talking, I said, what if people knew when people disown their kids and they knew at the time the child was born that they're gay, would they leave them at the hospital, when they've disowned them later in life? So Sam, jump in at any time. This is, that was just a great conversation we had the other day. And then I also found hang on, let me pull this up off my phone, a really great post. And this guy said, I wish people feared their sons becoming liars, cheaters, manipulators, abusers, and deadbeat fathers as much as they fear them being gay.
It's so sad that society has just put such a significant emphasis on this one area. And it's true, like you said, if you knew that your child was going to be a drug addict, if you knew they were going to, date a race you didn't agree with, if you knew that they were going to stop going to church one day, if you knew they were not going to choose the occupation you wanted them to choose, if you knew you were going to be met with all of these disappointments in your own eyes, would you leave them there at the hospital? And I think most people would say, well, gosh, no, I feel like I would love my child. I feel like I would welcome them with open arms and we could work through anything. But when they actually come out of the closet, it's such I guess, a double standard. Is like, okay, as long as it's not this, as long as it's not this one, we can handle anything but this one. And
Well, and you look at the statistics, 47% of the people who come out are disowned by their family, 54% are disowned by at least one parent. And I believe those numbers to be much higher than that. I think those are very conservative figures, but 47% of the LGBTQ plus are disowned, which it's almost 50%. That's a mind blow.
yes, it is mind blowing. And as I've mentioned to you before, I was one of those. I was one of that 47% that got disowned. And, I never even thought about it as a grown adult, that statement that you said yesterday, would you have left me? Would you have left me if you'd known by the time I was going to turn 23 or whatever it was? Would you have left me if you'd have known then? Because you left me now, you know, and um, and it's so sad because the deep seated repercussions of that abandonment is it's lifelong. It's lifelong.
It's a wound it doesn't heal. It'll change and you manage it better, just like any other loss you have, but it doesn't heal. And I've met plenty of people in the last like 3 years that have shared their stories with me. And it blows my mind to the level that all of a sudden you see the 16 or 17 or 20-year-old just crying in front of you. I've just met them 2 minutes ago, and they start sharing their story, how they were disowned. They were thrown out of the house. They're staying in other people's homes just to survive. And I don't know about you, but at 17 to probably close to 30, I didn't have the life skills I have now.
No.
And to survive and do successfully, you're just trying to figure it out. And there are plenty of people in this world that are looking for people like that to take advantage of and
Absolutely.
to extort. I mean,
Yes.
you know, and I think that that's one thing people need to really realize how vulnerable this segment is. And you withholding funds from them isn't going to get them back onto the path you want them on. This is absolute nature.
It truly is. And this is kind of a sidebar to what we're talking about. I, I know, having come from such a religious Bible Belt family, that you can't just, you know, say this magical sentence to anyone, whether it's from a Christian background or just your own opinion. I know you can't just say a sentence like, well, you're born with it. Well, it's natural. Well, and they're just going to magically come out of it. However, what I would say is, just like someone else, when it comes to our attraction or who we love or who we are attracted to, you can't come in, you can't go to a heterosexual who's attracted to somebody, who's looked at this person, who finds them cute or whatever, who's drawn to them, who starts dating them and wants to be with them. You can't just go to that person and say, "We just turn that off." Okay, just turn that off, and let's just decide that that's not there. Okay, and I think that family and parents and friends don't realize that when you go to the LGBTQ community and you have that approach with them, you're dealing with the same unmovable emotions,
Mhm.
and they can't just turn off this attraction. If you even thought that, even if they said, okay, you're not born with it, you still can't just turn it off.
Well, and I always, when I talk to people, when they go, it's a choice, and then I look at them, I said, "Tell me about the choice you had to make." Women kinda look at me like shocked, like I never thought about it. Heterosexual men get mad, and they
Mm-hmm.
really bluster, and there's been a few times where I'm thinking, if I were a man, we'd be in a fist fight right now because I've really, really hit this guy's ego.
Yeah,
And he says, the guys go, "Oh, I never had to think about it. I've always liked women." I go, "Exactly. These guys have been attracted to the same sex very early on, just like you were attracted to the girl sitting next to you in your classroom. It's not about a
absolutely.
choice. Now, if you think it's about a choice, then you tell me about your choice making, because obviously there's a story here, and please share it with me so I can better understand." Oh,
Absolutely.
they're mad. They're angry.
Of course they are. Um, and you're absolutely right. And I think that what the heterosexual people don't understand is that we 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 are forced into a position of thinking about our sexuality, thinking about this choice concept, thinking about, having discussions about it, coming out of the closet. We are forced into this place because we've been made to believe for so many years that this is the way you are. There's no other way but this, and this is all there is. Well, if you are heterosexual, there's you have no thoughts. You have no thoughts about it. You were raised heterosexual. You are heterosexual. So there's nothing for you to think on, consider, come out of, debate, argue about. But the reason why there is something over here for the homosexual community, LGBT community, the reason why there's something over here is because we are having to come out of this over here, and it requires thought, it requires discussion, it requires therapy, it requires talking, it requires coming out. And I think people miss that. We don't want to be over here doing this.
Mhm.
We want to be just like you.
Well, and not only that, though, everybody in a traditional, I don't know how to say this, so I'm gonna stumble here. Everybody is raised heterosexual, I think. Um, and so, and what I mean by that is, I looked at my daughter and said, "One day you're gonna meet a really great guy, and this is what you should be looking for, and, he should do this, and, these types of things. If he doesn't do this, you should stay away from him," and, just giving her some life skills. Same thing with my son. I treated him differently than I did my daughter because I didn't want to be that person that yelled at him, but I wanted him and I to have discussions so that when he and his wife were together, they discussed things as a team.
Mhm.
And I did the same thing with my daughter, but it's different. It never dawned on me that one of my kids would be gay. If I had said, if knowing what I know now, I would have said, one day you'll meet a great partner and just kind of leave it open. But from my perspective, she was going to meet a guy, get married. She dated guys. I had no clue. I was probably the most, I jokingly, you've heard me say this, I wanted to raise a very assertive female and I overshot it and accidentally raised a lesbian. But I
That's
mean,
true.
I just wanted her to be a very strong, independent woman and kind and smart. Those for both of my kids. That's what I wanted for them. And so I think everybody's raised their kids as heterosexuals. Now I've got same-sex couples who have raised kids and I kind of laugh because they're like, "Oh, they're gonna have gay kids." And a couple every now and then there'll be one with, a gay kid they've raised. The majority of their kids are heterosexuals. I was like, "Well, how did you guys fill that one?" That's a big fail. You know, you didn't raise a gay kid.
Exactly. Well, it's
So
so true. And I would venture a guess to say that 98% still in the alphabet community, when they have children, they still struggle in the not raising them heterosexual because like I have friends, a friend of mine who has grandchildren, and when the grandchildren come over, I know not to ask, so have you, if you got a little boyfriend or a girlfriend?
mhm,
I know not to deviate from that heterosexual way to do things. And it's almost so ingrained in you that I know when the, gay or lesbians have children, you have to relearn how to raise a just on not on no on neither side. You have
yeah,
to learn how to raise that because we weren't taught. That's a whole new thing that's evolving, I think,
yeah.
where you're not raising them to be heterosexual. You're not, only raising them to, you're having to learn how to just have a blank slate in their sexuality,
I
and
can
it's hard.
remember, yeah, I had a great aunt. She got married at 13, which at the time I didn't know it. And I'm like 12 years old. And my father and my mother had a rule that I couldn't date till I was 16. And that was the rule. So it's like, okay. So I'm just being a 12-year-old kid. And I remember my great aunt looking at me and going, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I go, "No." And she goes, "What's wrong with you? Are you gay?" And I didn't understand what she meant. And her daughter, which was my cousin, she said she's very selective. And I'm like looking at them because it's just like over my head what they're saying. Well, this woman, from her perspective, my clock's running out. She got married at 13, started having kids. And I'm 12 years old and I don't even have a boyfriend,
Mm,
And so, yeah. And it just, yeah.
yeah. Well, I wait while you were sitting there saying that. I mean, I don't hate to be just this blunt, but I I think it's sad because
And
people
people
don't want to be confronted with the crux of the situation, which is the reason why it bothers people. Any part of the alphabet bothers you is because it's about sex. Now I know that's not what this podcast was about,
Well,
but
it's okay, but that's
it's
where
about sex.
everybody goes to with the LGBTQ plus. It's like, well, how are they doing it? Why? And I was like, why do you care?
Yes.
Why is it any of your business? Well, which one's the guy? Which one's the girl? He's the wife. And I'm like, no, if they wanted a wife, there'd be a woman in the mix. They don't want that.
No, and I think if you as a parent or a family member or a friend, if you would just get real with yourself and ask yourself one question: what is it about this person's sex life that bothers me? In
Mhm.
your own, you don't even have to tell anybody, just in your own little world, sift through what is it, because it's their sex life that bothers you. It's not the fact that two females are going to the grocery store at the same time. It's not the fact that two men are sitting down having dinner. It's not the fact that a female and a female live under the same roof. These are not the things that's upsetting people.
Right.
You're upset about their sex life. And
Mhm.
so I think if a person would get true with themselves and ask, what exactly is it about this person's sex life and others that are like them that bothers me?
Well, and not only that though, I've had it to where people say, you know, when they kiss or they're holding hands, they're just shoving it in my face. And I'm kinda, like, looking at them, and, a friend of mine said that one time. I said, "So when you and your wife go out and you hold her hand or you kiss, you're not showing affection, you're just giving it to whoever's watching, like, up yours." I said, "That's what you're saying, right?" "Well, no." I go, "But that's what you just said these guys are doing. So for them to do it, that has to be the reason why you do it." And, my friend Teresa, you've met her, and I said, "If you go to a pride event and when you see 2 men walking down the street holding hands or 2 women, and you know how a couple just has that look when they look at each other. Everybody loves it, makes your heart skip, gives you butterflies in your stomach, and you see that between these 2 people. And then it's sad because they only get to do it safely one time a year in their community. And if you put it in that context, why do we do this to them or to ourselves? Overall, I think the way we as a community treat our most vulnerable is how we treat overall people, you know?
Yeah, it really is sad. I experienced a great deal of that, because, I mean, my father even said, my dad even said, I remember being in a car pulling up to the house I was living in, and he said, if you want to be, if you want to be that, be whatever you are, you want to be gay, you want to be that, just keep it to yourself. I mean, just don't throw it out, don't force it out here in the family. I remember his exact words, but it was the whole concept of the family's so upset about this, and it's okay if you just want to be that quietly, but just don't force it on them. Don't show it. Don't shove it in people's face. And and ooh, even now the anger still still comes up of just, anyway.
Yeah,
It,
yeah.
it just it's not right.
Censor who you are.
Yeah.
Censor who you are, censor who you love, because and I lead with this with parents too. It is not your child's place to make you feel comfortable.
Oh, I
It is
love that.
not.
It's not.
And and I was saying that, just last year in at a talk I gave in Henderson, and I said, "It's not your child's place, it is you." But during that, I realized I had said something, and I have it in the book, about my daughter. "You can be gay, just don't look this way," you know? And I thought it was funny, but that in Henderson, it dawned on me that I was forcing her to behave, and this is 15 years ago, to make me comfortable.
Mhm.
And I didn't have that right to make that expectations. I'm the only one that can make myself comfortable. So when I expect other people to tone down their behavior so I'm comfortable, I'm the problem.
That was such a wonderful aha moment as a parent, because
Yeah.
it, you know that's what I don't have children, and I'm glad I don't, but I which allows me to be willing to see the flaws in parenthood. I can
You
talk
can be a
about it.
good parent by not being a parent.
Yes, uh-huh. And so yes, people can say, well, you don't need to have children. And that's true on some level, but it's so awesome that you able to arrive at that, because it's actually just so sad, and not just in the alphabet community, but it's just sad overall that you as a parent, you talk to your spouse at the time or whoever it was that you were going to have a child with, and this is something you wanted, and you went through the 9 months of pregnancy and all of that, and then you birthed them, and you worked a career to pay for them, and you invested time and love and energy and everything, and then when they have a something in their life, and on this podcast, we're discussing them being an alphabet child,
Mhm.
and it disappoints you, they're so easily like discarded. I mean, like, and I just don't understand, I guess, as a parent, why it takes so long to get to the place that you were just saying, where you have to get there, and I don't know.
Well, and I know I've talked to parents and, one parent was confiding in me something his daughter had said, and I said, "She could be an alphabet kid." And without missing a beat, the man says, "Oh, no, I raised her better than that." And I
Mhm.
looked at him, I said, "Do you" I go, "I'll clean it up," but I said, "What the F do you think I did? Put my daughter in a lesbian boot camp till she conformed?" I didn't. She is who she is, and if you believe in God, He created her exactly the way He wants her.
Mhm.
And you can't tell little 5-year-old kids, "God loves you, God made you and all your wonderfulness." Then when you're 13, 14, 20, except for you.
Yeah.
And the one I hate was, a friend of mine, Rachel was getting married, and I was very selective who I shared that information with still at that point in time. And, I finally confided in this person that my daughter was getting married, and he goes, "Oh, what's her husband's name?" I said, "Well, her wife's name's gonna be Bailey." And I go, I know you're a Christian." And he goes, "Well, love the sinner, hate the sin." And I'm thinking, they're getting married. They're making a lifetime commitment to each other. What is wrong with that? What is wrong when two, and I mean, if you want to play the field, you want to just go out and sow your wild oats, as long as you're open and honest about it, that's between you and whomever. But if you're making a commitment to someone and you're, standing up before family and want to celebrate it and stuff, I don't see that being a sin.
No, I don't either. And I think you and I talked about this maybe on a future podcast. I think it would be a wonderful thing to just to talk about. I know other people talk about it. I've seen it on other platforms, but you can never say enough about learning better interpretations of scriptures, better interpretations of accurate interpretations of
Mhm.
things that have created this mindset.
Yep.
And
There's a great book, I shared it with you the other day, Separation of Church and Hate.
I
I can
love that title.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. I read a couple chapters, then go away and then read a couple more, but it's like, "Oh, holy cow," and then also the documentary 1946. Um,
Mm,
and
yes,
it's about how the book was rewritten, a word was changed out, and the word was actually talking about pedophiles, not homosexuality.
no.
And in 1946, that was changed.
And people go back to the famous one of all, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, the book that most impacted my life at the time was called Stranger at the Gate by Mel White. And he was actually a ghostwriter for Billy Graham. Or I think it was Billy Graham, a big evangelist. And he finally came out of the closet and he wrote this book. I mean, it changed my life, because I when I first came out, I said, well, I guess I'll go to hell then, because this is I can't control this, I can't change this. I've been trying to change this, and I can't, and I'm miserable, and so this is who I am. And so, but his book helped me realize that I'm not, going straight to hell in a handbag. And he in fact did go back and look at all of the the interpretations that people have created. Whereas the one at Sodom and Gomorrah was about hospitality, the
Mhm.
lack of hospitality. And we don't
Well, lack
understand
of
that.
hospitality, incest, it had nothing to do with homosexuality at all.
No, not at all. And, we may not understand that mindset back then. But that doesn't mean that that's not the correct interpretation. And it's just really screwed up a whole lot of people. So maybe we'll talk more about it in depth somewhere else on another podcast. But you know, eh, like you said at the beginning, read that
I mean,
thing
go back
again.
up
I
again,
just
hang
love
on.
that.
I do too. I just like, holy cow. I wish people feared their sons becoming liars, cheaters, manipulators, abusers, and deadbeat fathers as much as they fear them being gay. Out of all the things a man or a woman could be, the biggest fear is the LGBTQ plus community for a lot of people.
Yes, it really is. And the one thing that can divide a family so quick is LGBTQ. I mean,
If
it's so
I had
sad.
Yeah, if I had turned my back on my daughter, it would have affected my relationship with my son. There's no doubt in my mind about that because he fully supports her. He fully accepts her. I mean, that is his sister. End of discussion. Nothing about it. And had I turned my back, it would not have changed his mind. So I would have fractured both relationships with both of my kids. I mean, my family would have fallen apart, and rightly so.
Well, and what gets me is there's never a time when the parents or the family members stop and do a role reversal. You never once do a role reversal and think, here I am in this marriage, or here I am with this person, how would I feel? How would I feel if my parents kicked me to the curb for dating this person or marrying this person? Or how would I feel if my parents kicked me to the curb because you know, because I'm dating this person or I'm wanting to be this person? And
And
so
so
it's
it's
like
like
they
they
never stop and think about the impact. And if you just did a little bit of a role reversal, if you just looked at it as if it was in your own life, what kind of effect would it have? What kind of detriment would it have? How would you be,
yeah.
and how would you feel? And
And it's
so,
not it's not just like, "Oh, how would you feel?" It is a long-term effect that and I've had, like, at one of the pride events in Warwick County last year, these 2 women came up and they looked like 35, maybe 45-ish, and they're, like, asking me about the nonprofit, and I'm explaining the why behind it. It's for the 47% that gets disowned, and we give grant money and so that they can do post-secondary educational opportunities. And the one looks at the other one and just starts crying. And she grabs her, and she goes, "It's okay." And she turns and looks at me. She goes, "This happened to me. I got kicked out at 17. They won't even talk to me." She has a PhD in something. I can't remember now what it was. She's crying. You see that 17-year-old child come out 20 years later. Just, and yeah. And then I'm crying. I cried for a good 5 minutes after she left. I could not turn it off. The amount of anguish and pain. And then she's like, "This is my daughter." And she looked just like her. I mean, like you'd peeled her off, carbon copy. They go, they won't even meet her, which from a parenting standpoint, to be rejected on that level again is I mean, just mind blow. You don't deserve children at that point in time. You really don't.
yeah,
Um, and these are the stories I keep hearing over and over again. That's why I do believe it's much higher than what
yeah.
it actually is. I think we're probably 50 to 60, if not 60 to 70%.
Probably so. Probably
Yeah.
so. And even if they don't fully disown you, even if they don't fully disown you, and they allow you to remain in their presence,
Mhm.
there's still, you know, a huge percentage of them that are, okay, and because I went through this phase as well. Okay, well, you can come, but they can't.
Yeah.
Well, you're invited, but they're not. Or if they are invited, there's the, they never call them by your husband, wife, or whatever. It's like, who's your friend? And so you didn't kick me to the curb completely, but you've left a huge significant part of me at the front door,
Mhm. Well,
and you always leave it there.
my friend Ken that started the Soul Council, that newsletter that you get?
Uh-huh.
Shameless plug here.
Yeah.
Yeah, slide that in. But, he had said, "While I wasn't disowned, I was made to feel unwelcomed."
Yeah.
I was like,
Mhm.
"Holy cow, what an impactful statement."
Yeah. And that's exactly the way it is. And I mean, I was told very bluntly that I could come, but they can't. That was the sentence. I knew that. So, and you learn not to bring the other person up. Learn to navigate the conversations that you are allowed to have in their presence. I mean, so whether you've gone all the way over here to disowning, or you basically are giving them the same message in a different way. I'm going to disown part of you. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they're actually editing your life to make them feel
yeah,
comfortable.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Editing your life. Yes. And I'll tell you, I've gone to many a mental health therapist, not just for this issue, but just because I believe in it. But I I just think about kids that are like orphaned, or put up for adoption, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that, um, but like this whole abandonment thing that you have to work through. I don't. I think you said it a minute ago. I don't think you ever get over it, and I want to get over, I want to never have this thing that pops up inside. I want to say there's no resentment, all forgiveness, all love is, has returned. I want to say that. And by looking at my life, people will probably say, well, gosh, but it has. I mean, what are you complaining about now? But that little person inside from in my early 20s that was just abandoned for who I am. And I'm not even a bad person. I'm not worthy of that abandonment. Okay. Um, just still can't ever get over it.
No,
Can't ever
and
let it go.
I just had this thought, just like, you're still that 20-year-old that surfaces. Your parents are not the same people, and we had that conversation that, had made that decision.
Mhm.
If and I know your mom had told me after she read my book, she said, "You made better choices than I did. I wish I had this book when my daughter came out
Mhm.
because I could have made better choices." And she told me, "I went to the library trying to find books so I could make the right choice because everything at that point in time was biblically based, and I wanted more." And she had enough of a science background that she was searching for the information,
Yeah.
and she never quit searching, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'll never forget a little, kudos to mom. I'll never forget the sentence she said to me one time. She left a card on my car. We were not speaking, one of the 2 or 3 years of not speaking. And she found where I was working and left a card on my car. And I don't remember if the card said this specifically. I think I still have the card. But she also made the statement to me that um, she was not willing any longer to not have a relationship with her daughter. So she was going to do whatever it took. And that was her statement. I can't say that my dad was in those same shoes at that time. He did have an epiphany that he has mentioned to me to help him get where he needs to be. Uh, and then I value and I appreciate that from both of them. So you know what what a great what a great recognition as a parent, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm so thankful that they have. I can't say it ever takes away the scar.
No, it wouldn't, well, it just like any loss, because you lost that relationship. You've reestablished a new one,
Yeah.
but you lost that basic relationship.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I don't know. I just think I think it was a very, very good point made in that quote and in the statement, which you said, if you knew your child was going to be this, get your list out as a parent when your baby's sitting in the nursery over there. Okay. Get your
no,
list
before you
out
get pregnant.
before you get pregnant. Yes. Get
Before
your
you
list out of
get
all the do's
pregnant,
and
get your
don'ts.
list out of a deal breaker to take that kid home.
Yes. Get the list out of the deal breaker. Okay. And know what your deal breaker is going to be. And truly, really, if you actually did do something like that as a parent, then maybe you would realize either one, best you don't have children
Mhm.
because, the gig's up there. Okay. It's a high possibility this child, this other human being separate from you, is going to hit something on that list. Okay. It's a high possibility. But yeah, get your list out. And that way you're really clear as to whether you want to take this child home or go ahead and get pregnant and then take the child home, or do you just want to go ahead and abandon them in the hospital
Mhm.
because they might be one of these things.
Yeah.
And it's true, they don't, you don't, uh all the abusers in the world, the physical abusers, emotional abusers, and the people that steal or exploit others or all these things. And it's like there's so many more things that you could have. um
That person, I don't wanna say, I mean, cheaters, liars, thieves, abusers, that's not nature. That's usually learned behavior.
exactly.
So, but I do believe LGBTQ plus heterosexual is nature at its very core, and
Yes.
science backs that up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And your people, parents can be engrossed and worried and focused on this whole alphabet thing that they're dealing with their child, when this you're born with.
Yeah.
Stealing from other people, you learn. Like get the priorities straight. Go
Yeah.
over here, teach them to be a better human being. Teach them to be a better human being as a gay or lesbian person, but teach them to be a better human being. Worry about those things, focus on those things. And that's kind of your job as a parent.
Mhm.
But you can't change this over here. And yet so much focus and time and attention and hatred and just everything is thrown at the alphabet community.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
and just the self-loathing that is instilled in there and taught to them. And it's not done like just in your face, but it's done with these offhanded comments and, "Oh, I'd rather, pray the gay away. I'd rather my kid be dead than gay." And, you hear those things. I stood up in a school board meeting. I said, "My daughter knew by kindergarten, first grade that she liked girls. But she also knew from some of the very people in this room that that was wrong and that there was something wrong with her." She's 6, 8 years old, and she's already got this in her mind, "My thoughts, I can't think like this." And I had no clue that was going on. I just wanted her to be a happy kid, and I had no clue that she was already getting that message, none.
Sad.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah. So,
Well, I think that I hope that a time comes, especially with the younger generation, um, um, that's growing up now.
I
The
think they're the
generation.
ones gonna make the changes.
Yes, I truly do. I hope
Yeah.
that they are the ones that come in and put their foot down with a lot of things like they are,
Mhm.
uh, and make a change in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they will. I think they are the ones that are demanding the change. I think they are the ones that are like, we don't care what your pronouns are. We don't care you use pronouns. People my age, they're like, oh, this pronoun crap, and I'm like, you don't even know what it is.
Mm-mm.
My generation doesn't even know what a pronoun is. I still had to look it up. The younger generation, they're like, yeah, this is my pronouns. I was like, dang, they're way ahead of me at that age. I could have cared less what my pronouns were.
Yeah. Yeah. And this younger generation, I love it because they are bringing a backbone, a spine to
Yeah.
all of this. Meanwhile, they're making it so much less of an issue,
Hmm.
that is simultaneously while bringing it out, it simultaneously becomes so much less of an issue.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for that to get as embedded in our society as far as possible,
Yes.
so that
Yes.
we become a society where we don't care. What are your pronouns? Okay, great. As a wife, as a husband, you're married, you're straight, you're transgender. I mean, it's a non-issue. You're
Hmm.
a human being, so let's keep it moving.
Well, and you've heard me say, God didn't put me on this earth to sort someone else out.
Oh,
That's it.
bad.
Yeah, that's their job whenever you get there, and it's not mine. My job here is to support and love my human fellow beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So, yeah. Okay. Got anything else for me, Sam?
I think I'm good.
Okay. I appreciate this. This has been fun.
Yes, it has. Wonderful. I love this subject, and of course, it's very personal. But just hope that it helps
Real
people.
quick, let me back up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
When you got disowned, you were what, 22, 23?
Mm-hmm. 23.
What happened to you from 23 to like 20, what you said 20 years, so 43?
16 years.
16 years. So what happened in your life at that point in time? How did you get by? I mean, you just walked into a corporate job making 60, $70,000 a year. You were independently wealthy and just,
Oh yeah, that's it. That's what happened. I
yeah.
mean, life just blossomed.
Or
Uh,
you just said, well, maybe I should rethink and not so I can get financial support for my folks. I mean,
yeah, that definitely did happen. Um, no, because as I was saying earlier, I mean, it's such a futile effort because you're dealing with someone's love and desire and attraction for another human being. I don't know anybody that you can go up to and just say, now you just stop that right there. Don't have that no more. Okay. And so I've told my parents this. I've even told them about, family members. I'm like, give them time, because when these emotions awaken, we'll know where they are in their lives. And so what I would say is, no, I chose me. I chose these feelings. I chose this attraction. And I don't mean I chose it as it's a choice. I mean, I was having this and I chose me, what mattered to me. And what mattered to me was what was going on with me. And what was going on with me was this awakening that had been dormant for so long, just sitting over here, under at the foot of the cross, and so what happened was, as I came out and went over here to blossom into who I am, the first thing that I did was drink. First thing I did was drink. And when I say drink, I am truly surprised that I did not become an alcoholic, because I'm not talking like, oh, just party drink. I'm talking like boxes, 12-ounce boxes of beer boxes stacked up outside my apartment door. I lived my life just drunk half the time. And to the point I was carrying alcohol to work. And on a break, I would go outside and pour my liquor and go inside and be drunk at my job. Um, I did not have the coping skills to deal with what has happened to me, to deal with an entire family that I'm so sorry. There's a worker that just came over here and
It's okay.
decided to. Is it too loud?
No, I can't hear you. You're good.
Um, I didn't have the coping skills. I
You
didn't
don't
have
know
the
anybody
coping.
who would, though.
No, I don't know either. You didn't get a manual. It's not like they said, okay, we're going to kick you out, but here's the book. Here's the book. Take this with you, and that'll teach you how to deal with being unloved, unwanted, rejected, a piece of dirt, the dirt. Okay. Here's
And
the book.
making you feel like it's all your fault because you made that choice.
Yes, of course. And so I drank. That was the first thing I did. And then I drank some more. And then I went deeply into research. I am a forever a student, and I went deeply into research, trying to make sure that my soul doesn't go to hell. And it was a huge motivator for me because I was raised Southern Baptist in the Bible Belt, and so I, even though I had said, I guess I will go because I can't not be who I am. Even though I had said that, I still was hopeful. I was hopeful. Maybe I won't go to hell in a handbag, just maybe. And so I had to do lots of research. And I would love to do another podcast, which I hope that we do, about the different elements of the deconstructing
Yes.
of my Christianity combined with the coming out, because that's what I did. I drank, and as I drank, I slowly had to deconstruct from the lies of these people over here.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought this up because, one of the arguments is that LGBTQ plus, especially the trans, they're all mentally ill. It's a mental illness. And what it is not a mental illness. The suffering is coming from the lack of support.
Yeah.
And they'll like, you know, a high percentage, I can't remember the percentage, it's very high, attempts suicide or thinks about it. And so, the people who are arguing against it said, see, this is just showing you what the mental illness rate is among them. It's a disorder. And then I go, no, you need to read that research a little further because it says if you have one supporting adult, if your family accepts you, that suicide rate goes down to like normal, like 6%, like the rest of the heterosexual community.
Mm-hmm.
It is so high because of what you just described.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I, I, I had to have therapy, and I didn't get therapy, but I needed therapy to deal with what y'all did to me. I, I don't need therapy because I'm attracted over here. I'm pretty clear on that. That's the one thing I don't need therapy for, you know. But what your response to me, your response to to me coming out, your response to this and your treatment of me, you have now damaged me because of what you've done. And I have to go work through that. I have to go find how to love myself again. I love me more now that I've come out of the closet. Thank
Mhm.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But the damage that you've done, you, the parent, the church, the coworkers, the teachers, the society, you've given me a one-way ticket to therapy land, and I have to stay here the rest of my freaking life until I can, love
Breathe
me again.
and breathe again.
Yes. Feel like I'm a worthy human being, feel like I deserve to be on planet Earth.
Yeah.
I don't need therapy because I know what my sexuality is. That's the clearest thing I've got.
Well, and I'm amazed at the LGBTQ plus how kind and giving they are. After you hear enough of these stories, I would be such a bitter hag and angry at everybody. And I'm amazed at how welcoming and supportive the LGBTQ plus community is. It's amazing. It's one of the most resilient communities I've ever had the honor of being a part of. And
Absolutely.
I love being an ally. I do. And I am just amazed at how resilient and kind, because I've heard so many of these same stories. And I always think, oh, and somebody asks me, goes, which one's the worst? I go, all of them. Every single one of them, because as a parent, there's just something natural that comes over that you hear about the mom picking the car up off their kid, running into a burning building and dragging their babies out. Um, you hear about these things, you hear about as mad as a mama bear. That happened to me. My daughter got shoved into a clothing rack. Next thing I know, I'm going after this guy in a clothing store. And there was no rhyme or reason. I'm just on like full attack. Like, and it was mama bear coming out.
Mhm.
Um, so for a parent to disown and then continue on, I'm glad your parents, I don't want to say came around that, but they grew spiritually.
Uh-huh.
And as human beings, they evolved on a higher level than where they'd been previous. And that's what we're all trying to do,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know. So I'm happy. I'm sorry that for what you went through, but I'm also happy for you in the same instant, if that makes sense.
Well, yes, this is you talk about the community, and it is a testimony and a tribute to what we've had to grow from. You know how they're always saying, "Oh, well, you're a better person for it," and "Oh, well, look how much you've grown from all the the trauma and stuff you've had to go through." And people just kind of flippantly say that to people who go through things in their life.
Yeah.
But I can really say that that is true about the alphabet community because we know what it means to be ostracized, because we know how it feels to be disowned, because we know how it feels to be treated like we're a piece of dirt, because we know how it feels. There's this empathetic part that has grown within us, and not of our own making, but definitely something that has allowed us to give back to the world. And I think a lot of people also misunderstand and think, well, they're just a free for all. We have no boundaries, we have no morals, we have no anything.
Yeah. And
No.
like everybody's having sex everywhere.
Oh gosh, yes. And
Like
if you
it's all they can do to keep their pants on in public because they're all having sex everywhere. And I'm like, oh my
yeah.
God, that's the
Oh, and
furthest
and
thing from it.
and I love this. And I thought this way before I came out of the closet because all this crap was so embedded in my head. But the other one that I like is, if you're gay, like if you're a lesbian or if you're gay or whatever, you must like everybody.
Yeah.
You're not really attracted to anything. You don't have an attraction like you heterosexual people do. No, as soon as a female
It has
walks
a
in the
pulse
room,
and I'm going to hit it.
that's it. That's it for me. And the same thing is with men. The minute a man walks through, that's it. And we're going to be vultures. And it's just hilarious because it's really ignorance. It's just
Yeah.
so much ignorance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm. It's not a free for all, and we don't lack morals and good sense and things like that
I've
over here.
met as many stable same-sex couples as in my lifetime in the last 5 years that I've met in the heterosexual world as well, that are committed. They don't have an open relationship. I know heterosexuals that have open relationships that are married. It goes on. Um, I've got, 2 friends up in Lagodi, Indiana. I think they've been married, oh my gosh, I know 20 plus years, probably a little longer than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I know plenty of same-sex couples, and even when the breakups happen, you know, they're handled, and I know my dad said, he was going on one time before he had figured Rachel out, and that, he had said gay men were all child molesters. I'm like, "No, they're not," and he goes, "They're just all bed hopping from one bed to the other, they can't be in a committed relationship." I said, "Dad, they can't even get married in this country, and at that time you couldn't get married. I said, so when the relationship's over and you start a new relationship, that's a normal part of a relationship. And there's plenty of heterosexual people that have slept with more than one person.
Uh-huh.
You know, it is what it is.
Hmm.
So,
It truly is. I mean,
yeah,
if you're going to be a bad apple in your relationship, you're going to be a bad apple, whether you are gay or you are straight. If you're
right,
going to cheat, you're going to cheat in the gay community. You're going to cheat in the straight community. If you're going to bed hop and, and be a hoe out there, you're going to be a hoe on either side of the fence. I mean, it's just, we're all human. And just because our sexual orientation is one way doesn't mean that our character can't be in question sometimes.
right.
And so, I don't know. We're all human.
Yes, and we are all human, and we all deserve basic respect.
But you know what? To answer to continue answering that question. So I drank for a while. I did lots of research. Um, I did get to a point where I was experiencing a lot of suicide ideation. And had a friend of mine not committed suicide, I don't know if I would have, but I was not healthy in the suicide area. And then this friend that I had committed suicide. And while it's a bittersweet because obviously I was broken because they did, but at the same time, I always feel like that kind of saved my life. I've always felt that way because I saw firsthand, oh, so that's really what suicide is. Oh, that's like you're gone. Like that's it. Like there's no more of you. And it put me in check as to, okay, I don't want this. I don't want this. And so uh it really helped me to it helped with all of my coming out and uh helped me to realize that me being happy was so much more important than anything else that's going on. So it was a boost to continue growing. So I went through that. And then the other thing that I think I did was I started relearning my family of origin in a different light. I kind of didn't have a choice. Because what you were saying and what you were doing were contradictory. So there's a truth in here somewhere. And so I had to relearn my family members. And then so I did that and I and then I think I just kept growing in the best way I could.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I did through that time period.
Yeah. Well, hats
Yeah.
off to you, and I'm glad
Mhm.
you're still here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. So, in your life, it's never been perfect, just like everybody else. Nobody's got a perfect life, but it's your life, and it's a good life.
It
Yeah.
is. It is absolutely. It's a great life.
Good. Good.
So,
That's what I like to hear. So,
well, I've
I'll
enjoyed this.
I have 2. I have 2. It's been a good one. So we'll see how the edit goes.
Okay.
I do not like editing.
I bet you don't.
No, I don't. My dogs leave the room a couple times when I'm working on something because I deleted an entire reel one day. I'd been working on it for like an hour and I touched something and it was just gone. And I'd start all over again. Oh yeah, it was rough.
Oh, no. Oh,
So they're
no.
laying behind me and they're like, I don't know who she's talking to. I got the earphones in so they can't hear you. So I think they think I've lost my mind at some point.
Oh, that's too funny.
But I appreciate you sharing this. I know there's a parent out there that needs to hear this.
Yes.
If somebody's thinking about suicide, there's the suicide hotline. The Trevor Project is up, and that is still, I can't remember the number. I'll find it and I'll put it across the bottom. I think it's 988. Does that sound right?
The Trevor hotline.
Yeah.
I am not familiar with the number.
Okay. I will have it across this so that it comes up for those who need it. And it's always good to reach out to somebody.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and a lot of times when the world becomes a little bit too much for all of us, and so it does for everybody at some
Yeah.
point.
It does.
So,
It does.
but I appreciate everything, Sam. I'm glad you could be a part of this, and we'll do another one. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
All righty. Well, I'll let you go. Okay.
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 Thank
Thanks
you.
again, hon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye-bye.
Uh, Stop recording.